Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Nigeria, Class Anthozoa, Order Sclerotinia, Family Marulinidae, Genus Dendrogenous, Species Cylindris. That's the coral pillar, yeah.
Save the coral pillar, don't be a coral killer. It's labeled as threatened, it has to stay wet, and here are their base stats.
Habitat. They are stuck in their euphonics on from sandflats to reefs. They know how to get around Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, Florida, Bahamas. All the best vacation spots with pretty panorama. Description. Aractinia, stony corals who build strong shells for themselves. They aren't explorers. They also can grow up to 2 feet high. Look like an underwater palace. You can call it Versailles.
Lifespan.
Unlike other members of class Nidaria, it stays as a polyp. No tentacles for this. For after fertilization, it is a zygote, then a larva. Then it stays on a substrate till it dies like a marta. Unless it reproduces asexually, fragments off a parent like filamentous algae.
Save the coral pillar, don't be a coral killer. It's labeled as threatened, it has to stay wet, and here's what's making them die.
First, coral bleaching when the water gets hot, and they expel protozoan to be the color of chalk. Second, climate change leads to more hurricanes that damage coral and cause the polyps pain. Third, Aurotimonas coralcida, a white plague causing marine bacteria.
Save the coral pillar, don't be a coral killer. It's labeled as threatened, it has to stay wet, and here's how they impact humans.
Pillar corals provide ecosystem services and tourists benefit the economy through their purchases. Spiny lobster fishermen depend on the catch, and the pillar coral colonies give them plenty to snatch. Scuba diving, they make ecosystems prettier. People travel from all around to see their exterior. Research in Venezuela depends on their qualities. Providing home for animals is one externality.
Save the coral pillar, don't be a coral killer. It's labeled as threatened, it has to stay wet, and here's what's happening in Florida.
As a case study, let's look at the area in the Florida Keys and study their Nidaria. Pre-global warming, it was a coral exporter. From 83 to 03, coverage lowered by a quarter. Scientists studying a coral reef sanctuary discovered the reason for this failing estuary. See, corals need phosphorus to build their cell membrane for a lipid bilayer. Don't want to mess with your brain. When there's too much nitrogen in the water, it messes up the ratio of N and P, and it bothers the threshold of temperature and light and increases susceptibility to coral blight.
Save the coral pillar, don't be a coral killer. It's labeled as threatened, it has to stay wet, and here's what can be done to help.
N in the water comes from poor filtration, which is a result from farmers using bad irrigation. So the solution is clear to prevent the slaughter. Increase the phosphorus in the water. More phosphorus means a stronger lipid bilayer, protection from heating in the ocean's layers. Stronger coral means less coral bleaching. Let's do the course again so you get what I'm teaching.
Save the coral pillar, don't be a coral killer. It's labeled as threatened, it has to stay wet, and let's hear that chorus again. Save the coral pillar, don't be a coral killer. It's labeled as threatened, it has to stay wet, and that's the end of the song.